Welcome to DPW 2025 in Amsterdam. My name is Marloes Strik. I'm a procurement and supply chain leader, also a recent executive MBA graduate, and I'm passionate about the evolving role of procurement in business and AI. And I am thrilled to be joined by Lars Bettermann, Chief Procurement Officer of Bridgestone Tires.
Very much.
It's
great being here.
Nice meeting you. Great being here. So today we're going to talk about volatility and raw material supply in this VUCA world and world of never-ending supply chain disruptions, it seems.
Looking forward.
So many disruptions happening today still and happened in the past, for example, like events like the Ukraine war. That must have impacted the supply chain of your company with key materials for the tire industry. So how did you adapt your sourcing strategies for the raw materials you need?
I think it has significantly changed in the last 10 years. The role of procurement, but also how we adapt to those risks and to the things which happen in this world. Because if I look back 10 years, the macroeconomic challenges which we had, they were very much limited, and it was very much about how do we as procurement find our best sourcing strategy and how then we execute it. And then I would say since about 5 years the world got crazy. It all started off with COVID, at least from my perspective. And then we thought, COVID is a challenging one, and we need to overcome that. But then one after the other happened, and if I now look back the last 5 years, we could probably together find 10 or so events which have significantly influenced the way we do procurement and the way we manage our supply chain. And therefore, I would say now it's a new normal, and category managers or procurement needs to adapt to those new normal events. And we could take each individual one and now outline what the challenges were and how we, as an example, reacted to it.
So if you look, for example, we discussed about the raw material availability from Ukraine. How did you mitigate that?
Well, take that specific example. We as a company, we need a lot of carbon black. Carbon black is an ingredient in each tire which makes it black and which helps for resistancy of the tire. And one very good supply area or good partners were sitting in Russia. And that was a very attractive market to find the right suppliers and partners for carbon black. Now, whenever Russian-Ukraine happened, we had to kind of overnight take the right decisions what to do with that material. And we, as Bridgestone, were one of the first companies who then decided to fully pull out of Russia. And that also meant that we as procurement had to find substitutes for these supply, which came regularly and in huge tonnage from Russia. We had to find substitution, and it wasn't easy, and it was an exercise which kept us busy for quite a while, and day and night. But we had to manage it. There was no question about it, and there was no alternative.
So did you find geographically different based suppliers, or did you have to go through a redesign process, or what was the strategy?
Yeah, I think the secret sauce was to build on the strategy we had in that specific category. So let's take carbon black as an ongoing example. My category manager, they had established a strategy which was based on a multiple supplier strategy, so to speak. And we had different partners in this world, but obviously we as procurement were forced to achieve the best value for money, and with that deliver our cost savings year over year. And that was feasible with those Russian partners because they had a different system behind that. But we never focused solidly on the Russian partners, but we had also other partners in this world. And to your question, I think one of the secret sources was that we always kept strong supplier relationships to all of our partners. I think that's also one of the things which have significantly changed in the last years in procurement, walking from suppliers more to a partnership approach. And if you really have partners who also feel like they can win when you win, then they will also help you in difficult times. And now that event which happened there was such an event where we were relying heavily on the help of our partners in other regions of this world. So we were able to shift the volumes to others, and we're very thankful for the support they were providing and the teaming they played to show that we are true valued partners.
Could you then say that from a linear supply chain that we were moving now more towards ecosystems? I recently did my MBA thesis research. One of the findings is that we are moving more towards an ecosystem in procurement. So getting other parties in, and not just your linear suppliers, to make sure that you can cope with the volatility.
I think ecosystems play very well in categories or in areas where you have multiple suppliers and working hand in hand. Where it kind of becomes difficult is where you have a single relationship with one partner. And procuring raw material is actually quite simple because you don't buy, if you buy components like OEMs do, it's very complex and you need to break down those, and then you require your partners to work together to actually pre-compone the pieces and then ship it to you into your manufacturing plant. A tire is made out of, let's say, to make it easy, out of 100 different raw materials, and we as procurement for such, we need to make sure that those raw materials get delivered on time, in the right quality, with the right quantity into our manufacturing plants. And so I think there you need to make sure that you have that strong relationship to those individual partners. And yes, they play an ecosystem with the logistics providers and with the ones who help you to deliver that. But at the end, it is a simple business, and they produce the raw material somewhere, you need it somewhere, and then you need to bridge the supply and the chain behind that. And that's what we need to manage on a daily basis.
Innovation is also an important part of Bridgestone. You have recently launched a new tire which is made of 55% sustainable materials. What are the primary procurement challenges in that? It's also one of the values of the company, sustainability and social. How do you balance that, sustainability versus cost, availability, and innovation? So
we are committed to our sustainability targets as Bridgestone, and we have clear targets on there which says till 2050 we all want to be climate neutral. That means what does it mean for our materials? We want to have reused or recycled materials so that they get reused or reproduced in a circular economy. And the path to that, to 2050, is a tough one, as for everyone else. I think the positive news about the tire is that it's about 35 to 40% is a natural material, which is the rubber, which comes from trees. And so therefore, the good news is we are already 40% there with the green material. The bad news is, or the challenging news is, that for the remaining 60%, we need to work hard with our partners to transform these kind of materials into more sustained materials and recycled. And that's not easily done because it's a very complex process to retread tires or to recompone the tires into its ingredients, and then that you can then reuse it. But as one example, I could give you the steel cord. Steel cord is in each tire, which holds the tire together. And there, especially here in Europe, we have a huge discussion about the green steel currently, and how does steel become more sustainable and more greener. And that's where we benefit from, or that's one of the areas where we are definitely playing a role, because we want this green steel. Now, what does it mean for me as procurement? I potentially need to find new partners or to work with my current partners on making the steel greener. And that's actually one on top of our agenda these days, that we walk from a pure negotiator, and like I called it 10 years ago, to more a business partner or a partner on both sides, where we together with our partners deliver the right value, deliver the right sustainable material, and with that deliver a better future.
Does that then also mean getting your suppliers into the innovation process earlier? into design?
I grew up in automotive, so 25 years ago I worked for one of the major automotive OEMs, and that time it was already common practice that you always had suppliers working with your engineers and procurement on development, and actually those suppliers had always seats at the table in our offices. They were physically there. And throughout my career, I've then seen many different industries and how procurement plays in all those different industries. Today at Bridgestone, and I'm now 5 years with Bridgestone, I think we have gone through a major learning because 5-10 years ago we as Bridgestone thought that we don't need to rely so much on our partners, but this has completely changed. If I look today at our engineering center, one of it being in Rome, I see plenty of our partners running around there and working actually on a day-to-day basis with our engineers. And that's what we expect them to do, because they have the knowledge. Taking the example of steel, they know how to transform the old steel to the green steel, traditional steel to green steel, and they have the menu card for that. So we would be stupid if we would not use that kind of knowledge, and therefore I, as head of procurement, push very much on getting the door open for the innovations, for the ideas of suppliers, because that is what we can all benefit from.
Exactly, right point. They have the knowledge in a house, right? So,
correct.
So good to get them involved as soon as possible in that process.
Especially if you look at less relevant categories, which all of us purchase in the indirect side. Here we also accept to get the specifications ready-made from our suppliers. If I take, for example, a notebook, I would not expect to have my category manager have the knowledge about what the latest of the art in notebooks. So I rely on the providers which are out there to tell me what is it a company like ours should utilize every day. Now, what on the indirect side is common use and daily practice for us. Funny enough, it's not naturally coming on the direct material side, because on direct material, we as a society, we believe that, I mean, that's what we stand for and that's what we can do. But for sure, there are partner suppliers who know better for their components, and that's what we need to utilize.
And that would also mean some, internal lobbying of getting those suppliers on the table, but also making sure that the value of procurement is seen.
True. Unfortunately, I think many companies limit the value of procurement to the pure saving generation, right? So if I look back to my 30 years in procurement, I think I've seen many companies where it was limited, the role of procurement was limited to how many savings do you bring year over year. And then worst thing, with all my respect, was then if procurement head is reporting into a finance community, because then I'm really limited to only that pure cost reduction saving target. That's what I appreciate about my role in Bridgestone, that I'm embedded in the value chain with R&D, with manufacturing, procurement, logistics and supply chain, and quality, and we are all together one team, and we are all part of the same department, so to say. And with that, it enables me as procurement to then liaise with my colleagues from these other functions to bring in the right expertise and to convince them that there's only one way to do it, which is to do it in, you earlier used the term of ecosystem, and to do it in a group of people bringing all their best knowledge.
And I think, Lars, that is exactly what you describe now, is the evolving role of procurement from where it was a few years ago to where we are now. So that's really good to see also. And of course, we're here at DPW. One of the findings I had from my research is that when it comes to procurement collaboration, and especially then also risk management, what we talked about, is that many companies still rely on old tools. Like in my research, I found that around 80% of the companies I interviewed still rely on Excel and programs like that for supply chain mapping. How far are you with that at Bridgestone? Have you already integrated more technology in your procurement processes? What does that look like?
So the short answer is yes, and thankfully it's yes. The more extended answer is never enough. So if I walk around here at DPW, it's a great opportunity to see all the technology which is out there, all the AI. But I just said it this morning, I always feel that I'm in a dilemma because what we see here and what we hear also from the consultants, and that's their job, I'm not criticizing, it's their job to show us the opportunities which are out there and give us the vision for things. But if I talk to those guys, I always feel that I'm late with what I'm doing, and because I'm representing almost 100 years old company with its processes, with the knowledge being collected over, like I said, 100 years. And within procurement, we obviously have our key IT systems, and yes, we are adding to that already AI or other digital solutions, and some of them being here today. But is that enough? If I talk to the crowd out here, no, it's not enough. But that's okay, because we are on a journey, and we need to further develop and we need to further build on what we have. AI is not anymore a question if we want to apply it. It's more a question about how much do you already apply and how much do you use it. Am I using it, or are we using it at Bridgestone already fully? No, we don't. But that's what I see in a positive way. That's the exciting thing about being where I am, because we still have opportunities to grow and to further benefit from all the great solutions which are out there.
And rightly so, you still see opportunities to grow. What would that mean for building procurement teams? I mean, obviously, with this fast-paced upcoming AI and all the technology developments also requires a different skill set from people. How does that influence your building teams or the skill sets you ask from people?
Actually, a couple of thoughts to that. One thought is I obviously need to find the right young talents who are able to help me on building that path and who have the knowledge which I don't have. If I look at my kids nowadays, who are all at school and all teenagers, their way of using digital opportunities and utilizing in their day-to-day life is totally different to how I do it. And so who am I now that I am now able to tell my whole procurement department what to apply and what to use? Therefore, I do need those people who can help me to define exactly that way. And that's what actually I was talking to someone here today who saw that I'm a CPO, and that company was trying to pitch a solution to me, and I said I'm actually the wrong recipient for this one. You need to talk to my people, and if you convince my people that this is a great solution which they really want, well then let's talk, and then we can talk about how to apply it. But I think talking about me as a more senior generation, we can set the cornerstones, we can enable people, but at the end, ultimately, it's a young generation who needs to help us building that path and telling us what is needed to be successful.
And exactly, that's also what I found in my research, and also what I see day to day, usually also being in procurement as a leader. There's this gap or divide between young people, more enthusiastic, versus experienced. Let's call it that. And then I also get a lot of feedback that we need to train those younger people more on the strategic skills. Is that something you also see, or do you still see that, well, they pick that up readily? Or
I don't know, actually. I don't know, because I look at it from my perspective, from where I sit, and for sure I say, I've been 30 years in procurement, so you young generation, you definitely need to follow the same path. You now need to learn how procurement works. You now need to learn to place a purchase order, how to negotiate with suppliers. But actually, that's a piece where I say I don't know. I'm not sure whether this is still required, because many of the solutions which we see out here, they help you going that path. And so that's why I say I don't know. Is it really required that a 20-year-old or 25-year-old today still knows how to turn a PR into PO? I don't think so, because there are solutions which can take that task away. But do I need smart, open-minded people who can judge on what is right or what's wrong, or what is required or not, or what can help us to bring our department further into the next decades? That is what I need. So that's what I'm looking for, and that's what we recruit if we recruit externally and young talent. It's less the procurement expertise, which I believe people can still apply and learn. It's more the affinity to digital solutions and to the ideas which are out there.
And attracting people in general. It's, well, from my experience, quite tough sometimes to get good people in, but especially young people. And I find it that many young people do not lean towards procurement as a profession. So I'm struggling with the idea, like, how can we make procurement sexy again? How can we make this work? What would be your view on that? How can we make it attractive?
I'm just wondering whether procurement was attractive and sexy 30 years ago when we started. So there must have also been a reason why we ended up in procurement. I can only speak from my perspective, and I personally think it's one of the great places to be at in a company. And why is that? Because we can directly influence the bottom line of the performance of our company. And the value we bring as procurement, that's significant, and it's totally different to many other, or it is where you can directly see a one-to-one relationship. And that's what I appreciate about procurement. So if I try to recruit young talent, I always say, can you imagine how much power you have being in procurement, and do you see the value you can bring? The only thing you need to bring for that is to be relevant in what you do. So make sure that you have the right background, the right ability to be an eye-to-eye discussion partner to your internal stakeholders in order to together with them develop the right solution which comes from procurement.
Yeah, agree. And one thing I also find, like I said, recently completed my MBA, is that many universities do not give enough attention towards procurement and supply chain management. University I was at, there was only one elective on supply chain management, and procurement was unfortunately not a core course.
And I guess everybody has marketing and
of course, and finance.
Finance, yeah.
Yeah, and that's all part of the deal. But procurement is not there, and it's really a missed opportunity, especially in getting the young generation in. So.
That's why, for example, I'm a lecturer at a university in Germany, where I'm trying to work with the famous young generation, to tell them how great procurement is. And I think that's our obligation, that we give that back to those who will take the decisions tomorrow. But it's a difficult challenge.
Absolutely, and I also try that, to be a more mentor towards young people in procurement and drag them to events, etc. It is very rewarding to see.
If they want to be mentored,
yeah. So no, it's a good development. We're not there. We're not there yet.
True. But how do you do it? How do you attract young talents, and what do you think needs to be done?
Well, one of the narratives I have, usually also towards young people, is that being in procurement, you're in the middle of the spider's web. So you're dealing with everyone in the organization. Right. And whether it is in direct procurement or in indirect procurement, you're working with finance, in innovation, with R&D, you're working with marketing, and it's really, and that's what makes it really cool. Yeah. You're not siloed. So it's you have a really broad scope. And then if you add now the upcoming technologies, well, that makes it ultra cool. It should be very cool, and that's usually the narrative I have, and it's a good combination of hard skills, like with AI and tech, etc., but also a lot of soft skills. And take it negotiations with suppliers, but also your internal stakeholder management. What we were just talking about. How do you get procurement at the table? Not only in the boardroom, but also with R&D. Yeah, and that's also something that, well, I work for an innovative company myself, sometimes struggle with. Because, let's face it, they all love procurement, rightfully, and they all think they can do better.
That's really interesting, and I think we need to be at the heart of that, being in the universities, being where they are, in order to influence or in order to share with them how great procurement is. And maybe that's another idea for Matthias for next year, to include here some lecturers and to bring some below 20s, because that's where I think we need to start.
Absolutely, and that's a very good idea. And in the Netherlands alone, there are, well, unfortunately, only a handful of universities that have procurement professors. Right. So we still really need to advocate for that and get that in for the next gen.
Let's be the ambassadors for that.
I think that, well, we've come always to the end of our podcast. So I would like to thank you very much for your time and for all your insights. It was great meeting you. and we'll definitely work on that idea for next year. Get procurement lecturers in and get all those kids here.
We will. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate the time.